thing I love here is the way that I can like zoom with the thing. Look into the camera, go on, first eyes. I love tech.
Hello everyone and welcome to Dadcast.
With the man, damn. Do you know, I'm just going to quickly point out I am wearing a hat, but that's because my hair is not quite did. So, as always, you've got the new trio. I am father of two, Jace.
I am father of two, Kinny.
I'm father of four, Joe.
Alright, so new episode today. By the way, this show is sponsored by Guinea Pigs R Us. As you can see in the background, we've got some guinea pigs here. We've got two guinea pigs. What's the story, Jace?
I get the names wrong. I want to say it's... I keep going to say Norman, and I know his name's not Norman, I hate getting told off. I don't know which is which. One's Ron, and one's Colin. So we're guinea pigs sitting at the moment. They're quite well behaved. They don't make much noise. Every now and again you'll hear something being ripped, and I have to remember, oh, there's guinea pigs in the back. But yeah, no, Nicola's looking after them for her cousin whilst they're away for a week. So we've got these guys for another like 3 days.
Wicked.
Yeah, they smell a little bit.
I can't really...
The thing is when it's that type of animal, I think it's just more like the sawdust and the hay, rather than the animals.
I can't really smell
themselves.
that. Either way.
One of them in there, like he takes like the biggest dookies. It looks human sized. It's not me, I swear. It's a big dookie.
Jason is not lying.
So yeah, what we got on the show today then? What we doing?
So we're going to be talking about identity. Different levels of identity, identity growing up, identity as fathers, our children's identity. So many different levels of identity we're gonna discuss today.
Okay, so yeah, first of all, let's look at then our kind of identities growing up, because when you are growing up, you don't really think about yourself building your identity. So like I know for me, being mixed race, there was never really a thing of being like black or white or anything like that, but it's like I would go to my nanny's on a Friday and everybody there was just the classic Jamaican household. The vinyls is playing, them kind of ones, and like Toodles, man, Toodles, and it was that thing where the elders were all in the back room playing dominoes all evening. The kids were basically running amok upstairs doing wrestling and that, but it was just kind of like we was all sort of growing up in that environment. But then like on the other side, my mum, if you speak to her, she'll say to you she's black, but she's very English. She doesn't act Caribbean in quotation marks. So it was kind of, for me, there was no pressure to kind of be a certain way. And so I was able to kind of, grow up as I am. I mean, we had a bit of a chat off camera about how this whole thing of like being black or talking black, and there's a difference kind of growing up in an urban environment and talking a certain way. So, hashtag man dem. But that's, you know what I mean? So yeah. What about you, Joe?
Well, I think that definitely touches on my growing up. So I don't think I really thought about my identity until I was a teenager. When I was a kid growing up, I was just a kid growing up and, running around with the kids in the urban inner city area. And I was the only white kid in the little crew we had. We all had Jamaica bandanas on. And I was there with my Jamaica bandana running around with the rest of them. And that's where my nickname comes from. So my nickname Duppy, because I was very pale when I was younger. And my sister said, "You look like a duppy," which is a ghost in patois. And that stuck ever since. So, but I didn't really think about that or identity at that age when I was 9, 10, 11. It's when I started. It was actually when I moved away from my area that I grew up in, away from St. Werburgh, St. Paul's, that people started commenting on my identity. So growing up in St. Paul's, no one ever made any comments about anything at all. As soon as I moved out of that, it would be white people would say, "Oh, you think you're black, or you're acting black, or you're dressing black, or you're talking black." And for a long time, I really struggled with what that meant, because I was just me, and I've been raised. My mum's English from Cornwall, British household. My uncle, so my mum's sister's husband, is Jamaican, and so grew up around Jamaican culture and around British culture. I hadn't really thought about it, but it definitely challenged me. It's taken a long time to get to the point where I'm comfortable enough to confront that. So I've actually had it in workplaces where somebody fairly high up has said to me, "Oh, you think you're black?" And what I then had to challenge them on is their idea of blackness. And I think that's something that's misconstrued in the media a lot, is what is blackness? Because wearing a hoodie and talking bad is not talking well is what a lot of people say. Oh, he thinks he's black. That must be on the way I talk and the way I wear my clothes.
I've had it where, so playing online on Xbox, you're just an avatar and people will hear my voice, and when I'm with the, say like I'm with the boys and we're all talking, and people be like, why are you trying to act black? And it'd be like, I'm kind of brown. And it's just like, it's not right. But it used to be funny. So one of my friends Squeak, what we used to always have was people calling him black, and he's like, he's northern and whiter than white, gets sunburned in a dark room. Sorry, Squeak. But then and then they call him up being black and call me up for trying to be black, and it's just that kind of thing of actually we're all just talking the same kind of dialect and lingo as you're growing up.
Yeah, it's like a product of your environment, isn't it? That's all it is.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, one of the things I work with young people and teenagers from certain areas will have certain views on race and things like that. But one of the things I would say when I talk to them is about blackness, and you look at the biggest continent in the world is Africa, and I definitely don't act African, but they are black. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, where do you define it? And I think it's an important conversation to have, and I think it could be really confusing as a teenager. When I was growing up, I found it really well. Obviously, we was in the same kind of friendship circle, and your friendship circle was really broad and stuff, and it was really helpful to be around kind of all different kind of people. Obviously, I grew up in a really multicultural area, but a lot of your friends from Cotton, who I then became friends with, who weren't from that same area, and that was kind of helpful as well. But I think it can be really confusing as a kid.
For me, identity was everything. Everything growing up. I come from a Rastafarian background, and growing up, the teachings, the understandings about our ancestry, where we come from. Always to kind of look back at your ancestry to know where you come from and where you could go and who you can become. And it was very, it was very imparted in me. In the Ras community, we all lived near each other, went to the same schools, so I was encompassed in that quite a lot, and not sheltered, but it's you're just in that. And then I went to multicultural school, primary school, and then everything changed once I went to Cotton, secondary school, where I was pretty much I went from primary school to secondary school by myself. So I went into this environment where it was a predominantly white school, and it was either one of those things where I felt like I could kind of reinvent myself in a way.
Okay. Yeah.
Or just, I was going to be hell-bent on being myself, but it was now either people are going to kind of look at me and be, okay, there's this guy who's black, he's got dreads, wearing a hat most of the time. How are they going to take that? When I go around their house, how is their parents going to take that? And luckily for me, everyone was caring, parents understood, it was great, and it allowed me to build up my friendship group. Now I've had, same friends for 20 years, and but now, I still feel like I have, I still carry teachings from growing up, and I still think a lot about, the ancestry and how far we've come, as black people. But that will never leave me. It's
when you're talking about having like the multicultural kind of thing, it's quite interesting how when you live in it and it becomes so normal for people outside. So, I went to Eastern Primary School, and it was although it was a Church of England primary school, there was still like a mixture of people in there, and I remember going to St. George, and then in the first RE lesson they were asking things about different religions, and I was saying all these different things, and they were like, quite a lot. And it's like, because I grew up around so many other people, and I'm just interested, and I learn all these different things from people, and I think that's what's been able to give me like a well-rounded kind of view that's given me quite an open within my identity. I sometimes question why it is that when it comes to the stereotypical, if there was like a yes or no, if I had to be white or black, I find it interesting how quickly I'd be put in the black category, but not in the white category. Being that I'm half. But then it's that thing where, because I've been able to see so many different people, I'm like, do you know what, actually, I am within my own set. Like, I'm mixed heritage. I'm the guy that ticks other on that nationality thing, because there's no white, black, mixed British. It's white, black, Caribbean. You can be black British, you can be white British, you cannot be white, black, British. So I always take, and it's just that kind of seeing those things has been able to make me, I see them, I become more comfortable in who I am. Like, I am me, I'm not a box, I'm not a group. Although people will try to put me in a group, it's like, it's cool. If you want to do that to make yourself feel comfortable, that's fine, but I'm still going to do me and that kind of thing,
Well, I think what you touched on there about primary school is, like, it's a beautiful thing. I've worked in schools, and in primary, there is no division. Like, when you go into a primary school to pick up your kids or whatever, everyone's just playing together. There isn't any racial divides, there isn't any class divides, there isn't any of these constraints that society put on us. And it's not till you hit that teenage kind of, and I've got a child in my family, a mixed race child in my family who's at a predominantly white school, who's in year 8 now, who is really, really struggling with, she's just realised that racism really exists. Mm-hmm. And not racism, outward racism, where someone's, calling you racial slurs or things like that, but being treated just slightly differently because you're not white. Mm-hmm. So I think it becomes, when that realisation can be so difficult to kind of accept and take on and understand, and I think that can cause a lot of deep-rooted kind of emotional frustrations, I think. So I've just noticed that with her. She's 12.
It's a funny one, because I think that we've been talking about this recently in our friendship group about what it was like back then when we started school, and now known each other for 20 plus years, and how important it was for me to be able to go to a predominantly white school and kind of go through those different things, because I grew up in a predominantly, you know what I mean? So to be able to see that, it kind of gave me kind of a foot in what society actually is like. And I was lucky in the fact that a lot of I never really kind of saw any issues or anything like that around racism in my school. I was never put into that that kind of black boy token, kind of box. And I found myself so lucky. And I always think, what would it be like if I didn't go to that school?
Definitely. Well, I had a different experience at Cotton in regards to, because obviously we're talking about race here, but there are other kinds of divides in identity as well. And I missed quite a lot of school. I missed 3 years of school, so I wasn't there for a long period of time. But I really struggled with the class divide. So my mum, single parent, worked very hard, worked full time to get us, through. But we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And being in Cotton, where a lot of the kids there had a lot of money, I remember feeling really resentful going to people's houses and sitting down, and mum and dad were both sat around the table and they were having a family meal. I was resentful of their family structure. I was resentful of the fact that they could get the PlayStation when it first came out, or have the kickers trainers the kicker shoes that I wanted. Do you know what I mean? And to be fair, the kickers was the one thing my mum got for me. She was like, she saved up. Me and Hannah both got kickers, me and my sister. But that class divide was really noticeable, I think, for me in Cotton. But maybe that's because I came from a better, we were poor growing up.
You're not the only one. You're definitely not the only one, because I felt that as well, especially when I kind of. So I saw myself as, not like super, super popular, but I was part of the, and
everyone knows Kinny.
And what comes with the, you think, what comes with that, everyone else in that group was talking about, oh yeah, I got this for Christmas, I got this holiday. And I used to find myself coming into school like lying about little things, like, oh, what did you get for Christmas? I'd be like, oh, I got this, I got that. And I'm like, nah man, I didn't get nothing. Like, I got, I remember when I got my first Power Ranger kind of figure 4 years after it come, you know what I mean? Everyone's got the whole thing, the Megazord, and I still never got that Megazord. But I found, just like you, I found that so difficult. You're trying to find your way in school, and then there's little things that you see that are different in class and how you deal with that.
The thing is, even with that, so like there wasn't so much of that, obviously being an Eastern inner city, deprived area, and then going to St. George that, isn't massively well off as it is either. But there were still some of those things where there were some guys that had a bit more, but I think because it was a mix, people were more kind of comfortable. It's like looking back, Mum, I know that Mum and Darren would like break their back to get me certain things. So, like, I remember them telling me about when they used to that classic thing, they'd buy something and they'd have to test to check it works. And they bought the Nintendo Entertainment System for me one year. And Mum was telling me that like they got out to test it and they was hooked. So like every evening they was getting out of the box and playing it. And like, the ones where your kids get up and like, one of them would block me at the door. But it's just that thing where, it's like, again, as you grow up, you kind of, at the time you might not see it as much. But again, it's a lot of it is reflection and kind of going back, because I don't know when my identity, I'd say, was formed. But I think we can all agree that once you have kids, your identity changes. And all the things that kind of happened, some of them go out the window, but then, like you get certain bits. So it's like, me being, I'm still relatively laid back, but like I become really anxious and worried for my kids. A lot of the time I think that's added to my identity, is that I'm a bit of a worrier for my kids. So I don't know how you guys have kind of seen yourselves change your identity and your values as you've had kids.
Should I go first? I was a dad first. I was one of the first dads. Mm-hmm. I was one of the first dads in our friendship group.
How old were you when you had?
I was 20 when I found out I was going to be a dad, and 21 just when Maisie was born. So Maisie's 12 now. And yeah, I think looking at our friendship group, my friends were 19, 20, 21, and they were planning trips to Napa and all these different places, and I was working 3 jobs to make sure Maisie could go to nursery. So after me and Maisie's mum broke up, Maisie was only 11 months old, about 11 months old when we broke up, I then spent most of my time working to provide for the life that I thought Maisie needed.
Yeah.
And she did to an extent, but it was a detriment to my mental health. So it actually took away from it. There were months where you guys wouldn't hear from me. Mm-hmm. Like it would be 6 months, and like people's like, well, what's going on with Duppy? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know he's working in it, you know. And it was like, and so it impacted me massively, and it's taken a long time to readdress that balance, and also to realise that what my kids really need is just love. Like, I'm not saying it was wrong for me to work 3 jobs or anything, because I was able to put her through a good nursery and this and that. But she didn't need that. I could have had a better mental state and just had that time with her, because I was going to see her every other weekend and sleeping because I was so tired. Do you see what I mean?
The thing is, at the same time of you saying that, do you reckon you're able to see that now? Because in 2018, there's a lot more highlight of men's mental health and emotional well-being. Because back then, you wouldn't have been thinking about your...
No, I just know I was struggling. I didn't speak to anyone about it. I didn't know how to. Yeah, it was very different. And although our friendship group was really supportive, and actually Kinny was someone I've always been able to talk to, there were things as a man that I just struggled to talk about. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely think that probably reflection has changed with society, and I'm able to look back and see, actually, I was in a really bad place. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I think you're probably right. And that's a positive, you know, and more young people are discussing things now, I think. It's becoming more.
All right, well, I'll talk about my experiences when we come back from a break. Sadly, no more Crenshaw Rob on this episode.
He'll be back soon.
He'll be back soon. If you want to see Crenshaw Rob, just email us. That's Dadcast, wtnd@gmail.com. And yeah, just let us know your thoughts about Crenshaw Rob. You know, do you want to see him back? Do you like him? But yeah, we're going to go to a break, and then we'll be back and we'll continue our talk about our identity.
Hey guys, do me a favour. We really want to get as many subs as we can. Never miss a show. Click that button. And if you're not on a PC, here's how you do it on your phone. It's quite simple, really. So just take those 2 seconds, hit subscribe, and it'd be much appreciated. Thank you very much. And guess it's back to you in the studio.
And welcome back to Dadcast with the man then. So we were talking about identity, and Joe just, told us a bit about, his identity as a father. Did it change once he had children? And so for me, once, I had Zaire at 26, and I always said, I want a child by the time I'm 26. I was like,
why 26?
I don't know. I just thought that was the time.
People go 20, 25, 30. Kinny goes 26.
I just thought I kind of did the calculations in terms of, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I just thought I'd be ready, and I was. And, with that being said...
To be fair, sorry to cut you off. I feel... When I know Jess is only 2 years older than Zaire, but I feel like when I had Jess, like you was ready then, like you was ready to have babies. So you say you want to have them before you're 26, but I feel like
Kinny knew this from day, but we were talking about this when we were young, yeah? Kinny's been ready, like I just needed to find the right woman.
But with all that, you kind of go through the motions once, your partner's pregnant and stuff, and you kind of start thinking, okay, you don't really think about what's going to change until it actually happens. Yeah. You just think about, I got to prepare. And I did a lot of preparing. But once, Zaire was here, things changed a lot. Because at that time, I was, still going out and seeing you guys and stuff. Yeah. And then, bam, Zaire's here and everything changes. And I had to kind of separate myself. At that time, I had, Kinny, the father, and, Kinny, as Kinny going out and stuff. And that, I had to deal with that not being no more for a while, whilst I kind of educate myself about Kinny, the father. And it was hard. It was kind of hard because you go through the situations where baby needs mum a bit more because obviously breastfeeding and all that stuff. And then you're kind of dealing with that identity and that issue as well. And then realizing as well that all your friends are doing all this stuff. You can't get involved in that. And it was hard, but then, I kind of realized, I want to be here. This is what I want to be doing. So I need to work on Kinny as father first to, make sure that I can support Sherelle and support Zaire as much as I can, because I know once Zaire is one and a bit, this is going to start coming back. And I think it's important not to lose you and realize you're not going to lose yourself by focusing on this. This is more important right now. Yeah. And as you get along, you know, that will come in. And it benefits as well having, you know, you guys who have had children as well.
That's what I was going to say. Did you guys find like that with some of your friends? So within your friendship circle, you say you were first, and I think I was one of the first to have kids in my friendship circle. Did you find that some people then just started to not get that you couldn't just come out, or not even that you couldn't, that you didn't want to? Like,
I think that Kinny was the person who I contacted the most. So we maintained contact a lot just because we've been close friends for a very long time. So I think Kinny would often be the one that would explain to the other man that, like, he's on daddy duty kind of thing. I definitely think some of the boys were a bit like, we haven't seen him in months, and but he hasn't got his kid all the time. Like, and it's like, when I haven't got my kid, I was working 24 out of 48 hours on a weekend. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just working non-stop. So I think you probably saw more of that actually from our friendship circle, where I was completely absent from it, but I was talking to you, but some of the boys were probably a bit like, what's going on? He's not here anymore. Like, he used to come out and rave, now he's not, you know? So, I definitely think that got felt. And I felt it, and I wanted to touch on what you're saying, because I think you're right, and I think it's really good that you mentioned that you had, like, you knew that this side of things was going to come back. Because as much as I agree that being a father comes first, I've learned over the years it's so important to look after yourself, whether that's around identity or having time to do your own thing or whatever it might be. If you don't look after yourself, you're not able to be there for your kids. So I've had quite a tough year, and a lot of my energy and my focus and my emotional energy has been taken up. And because of that, because I haven't had the time to step back and give myself time, whether it's just playing a PlayStation at night or whatever it might be, going out with the boys, catching up or whatever, and having that wind down time, I've been more stressed out with my kids. Even though I'm trying to put them first in everything I do, I've learned that I need to take that back in order to be a better father for them, if that makes sense. So I agree that, you know, it's a balance, but you can't let go of how important it is to look after yourself.
Would you think about, you know, the identity as not just a father, but as a man, in terms of that stereotypical, you know, breadwinner thing, and, you know, once finances come into things, and you're trying to, like you said, you had, you know, 3 jobs, trying to, you know, make sure that you could give Maisie the life that she wanted. It's
looking at the long game. So I think that's what I've tried to do more and more as I've got, as we all do as adults. You stop living in the moment and start thinking ahead, because, you know, it was a thing where Nicola wasn't working long hours. So I think we were talking about the other day, and she was doing something like 12 or 15 hours a week, while I was doing like 40. And it's that thing where, like, I was bringing in like the main cash, but now we've got to a point where she's really comfortable, and she started to build up kind of how she's able to work more because the kids are at school and things like that. And then I'm able to look at, what do I want to do with my time now? So, you know, on a Tuesday doing a bit of radio, or like going out to like poker once every fortnight, those kind of things, you're able to build it in a bit more, because although time is precious, it's not as detrimental to always end up in a certain scenario. So, you know, it's like cool that the boys have been talking about like possibly going to like London and things like that we're able to do that now. Because sometimes you get people that's like, let's go for a week to Barcelona. Like, sounds fun, but I don't want to
literally could do that with the stag.
But back in the day, there was a lot of that. You know what I mean? And so I can understand for you, you know. But I think now that majority of the boys have children, they you know, they understand more, and we can also support them with, you know, with kind of being okay with that. You know, your child's not 1 yet, and you're gonna have to focus more. You're not gonna be able to come out into
And I was talking about this the other day with a friend of mine, and just kind of I was looking back on, because I was the first one to have a child pretty much in the friendship group. I had a choice of either making sure I did invest all that time in my child, or going out and still having fun and this and that. And I had a lot of guidance around me, which is really good, and I was able to make that choice and do it the right way. But when I think now, it's like, you guys had all the time to do that, and now you're having kids, and you can set back and invest in your children. If I'd have been selfish back then, I would have missed out on the first how long of my kids' lives, and now would be looking back thinking, I messed up. Like, I could have invested that time, and now I see all my friends being able to do that. So it can be, being a parent is a sacrifice, but it's also a massive investment. Everything I've put in, I've got back out like 100-fold.
And I want to say as well, talking about future investments, what's good is when, I don't know what you guys are like for gift giving, But me, as a son, I've never been that good. Whereas I know that girls generally are better at gift giving. So what's good is that I've got 2 girls. So the investments for Father's Days and birthdays.
Good luck with that.
I'm just hoping it goes that way because Nicola's pretty good with gift giving.
Okay,
so
okay.
That gets instilled. So when the girls are watching this back in 10 years and they're laughing because they bought me like the newest smartwatch. So touching on kids. Oh, whoa. Talking about kids. What do you guys do anything around molding and helping to shape your children's identity? So I guess I go, Kinny, give you the floor first.
Yeah. So, Zaire and Kida being 6 and 4, with Zaire, you know their personalities, you can see them growing, so you just try to mold that, and kind of fill in the missing bits that they don't quite understand why this is happening. And I think it's good to kind of highlight the really, really fun parts of their personality, so they can realize, look, this is what I enjoy doing. This is what I enjoy doing the most, because what it is that you're building up, you're building and encouraging them to make sure that they continue to do something that they like doing or they enjoy doing, so that they can aspire. It's pushing that that kind of being inspirational, and aspiring to something. With Kida, it's slightly different because she's obviously a girl, so. Me and Sherelle talk a lot about how we kind of talk to her, and and I'm trying to be more understanding and figure out, because Sherelle's always thrown in it. Oh, so what when she gets her first boyfriend, and I'm like, so just loads of different things like that. But I think it's very, very important to kind of if your kids ask questions about certain things, you make sure you can answer them in the best way possible, because growing up, your influence is so important, and I think if you leave things up, when they're asking questions and you don't answer them, the worst thing you want is for them to kind of either learn for themselves without kind of guidance, or someone else telling them something wrong. So I try to answer as much questions as I can with the kids.
Would it be fair to say that growing up, part of your identity was being a Rastafarian?
Yes.
So where do you stand on kind of that part of your identity with Kida and Zaire? Obviously, they're still young, so there's a lot of time, but I know that you haven't brought them up in that with the traditional teachings, but still some of the messages are still in the way that you're kind of raising them.
So what I've done is, for me, when you have children, I feel like it's like a new life for you. And for me, I, not saying it was bad or anything. I loved how I grew up and stuff like that, because it's instilled so much values within me. But I've lived that life. And I want my children to be able to live a life that they want to lead, All I can do is take the teachings from my parents, the values and stuff, and install that in them. My parents are still around, and they're always going to have that Rastafarian influence and stuff. And I think it's important for them to know where they come from, where I come from, where our family come from, and how we've grown. And my parents, they will always, whenever they have them, they will always instill those things in them. So I thank my parents a lot for, continuing to do that, and taking them to celebrations, and taking them to to Kwanzaa and all those different things, but the values.
But I was just thinking then, because that's actually something I didn't even really think about, the fact of you can be thankful to your parents for allowing you to raise your kids the way you want to, but they're still able to get access to the identity that you had through your parents, which is really good. Joe, your plethora of children, there's a lot of identities to try and manage. Have you kind of given it any?
Yeah, well, it's a constant ongoing thing, and identity is around all kinds of things, especially with the girls, the older two, kind of hitting puberty and things like that. That's thrown up a whole new thing. I think Maisie's situation is quite interesting because she lives in Cheltenham, so it's a very white middle class area. She's at a very white school. There's not hardly any BAME young people at the school at all. And when she comes to Bristol, she's the only white child in the family. So for her, for a long time, as it is, like we were saying, primary age kids are kids, and they don't think anything of it. She started to notice more and more that Bristol's a lot more diverse, and she really loves that about Bristol, that there's different cultures and foods and music and people, and she really enjoys that. And obviously her family, what she's now struggling with is she's hit the age where she's aware of world issues, so she's very interested in things that are going on. She went on the Black Lives Matter march with me a couple of years back, and that really started the ball rolling about things that are happening in America and this and that. And obviously what's happening to black people in America that's people who look like her cousins and her uncles, and do you know what I mean? These kind of things, and or second cousins and stuff like that. So it becomes more relevant to her, but she's got to then go back to Cheltenham, where there's very little discussion about that, and hear some fairly ignorant views. So at the minute, I'm teaching her how to handle ignorant views in a way that isn't confrontational, that is about standing up and educating.
That's the thing. That is the thing. It's tricky, isn't it? It's in that scenario when you get somebody who, and I'm going to use the phrase, innocently ignorant.
Yeah.
They're not doing it to be malicious, but you kind of have to check them. Like you can't say it.
A lot of it's generational.
And the thing is, that's not even just about race. Like I found that in recent years when I was doing my degree and stuff, that there's people that are innocently ignorant around disabilities.
Oh, massively. Yeah,
and
sexuality.
It's crazy. So so it's good.
Well, being innocently ignorant around sexuality is when I was playing an old ragga tune in my car, and Maisie and Tasia were like, "Dad, what does Chichi Man mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, well," and they knew what it meant. They was testing me, and they schooled me on it. They were like, "Yeah, but like that's not okay." And I hadn't really thought about it. We grew up listening to music that was homophobic, and I was playing a Sanchez tune and like living my best life in the car driving along. And all of a sudden, I'm confronted with the fact that actually that's ignorant of me. And I've had to really think about that, especially because I think now the girls are at the age where they are understanding more about sexuality, not necessarily their own, but they've got friends at school who have identified as being bi or have come out or that kind of stuff, and that's very foreign to me only because we grew up in an area where that wasn't really acceptable. So I think that's changed massively. I've had to look at myself with that. So your kids can help shape your identity as well, and I think that's a really positive thing, but you can learn from the new generation.
It's funny though, because like Kida at the moment, she's going through that, I'm black, she's white, and we'll be out and she'll be like, Daddy, I'm black. Like, you know what I mean? And she'll be, and we're like, yeah. And just explaining kind of like what that means, because she's pointing out the obvious, which is she's kind of understanding different, people are, different colours, different races and stuff like that. And then there's the other one with Zaya and Key, they're both talking about like shades and things like that. So they'll go, you're black and I'm brown, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, well, no, you're both black. It's just, Zaire's taken on mummy's complexion, so he's a bit lighter, and you've taken on my complexion, which is you're a bit darker, and then we explain that how that works. Your genes, you and mummy mixed. You know what I mean? It's just
we've had like a few jokes when like years back talking about like my mummy's black, my daddy's white, so I'm grey, and the girl's like, you're not grey, like silly things like that. But like for me, with kind of like having the girls, myself being mixed and Nicola being white, I want them to kind of understand, and it'll come as they grow older, but it's like when you look at Jess is, pale skin, freckles, blue eyes, really fair hair. Then you've got Jada, who's a bit more olivey, like your classic quarter cast. I put it in quotations because I think that's, when we were growing up, that's how it was. So, you can see in Jada that she's got those features, and I've had Jess come back from school saying like, "Oh, people don't believe me that I'm like an 8th Jamaican or whatever it is," and it's like, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of, but I do want them to grow up knowing that part of their identity, that when they see my nanny, and she's like chatting to them in patois, they understand it really well, and like that's just their nanny. But I just wonder kind of as time goes on, because I don't really do anything that's black. So it's just, I hate having to use quotations, but I'm just trying to think that's the easiest way to kind of talk about it. And it's just, I want the girls to be able to grow up, and I want Jess to be able to say, actually, I'm part black without persecution, but there's nothing I can do to control. So I hope that part of Jess's identity is that she becomes comfortable in knowing what she is and not having to convince other people.
Yes.
And then even around like, the Jess has started talking about having crushes on boys and that kind of thing. Jada's not really there. She's mentioned like a few like playthings about this boy's going to be my husband when I grow up and that kind of stuff. But like even with them in regards to like their sexual identity, and I'm sure it would upset many members of my family, like I genuinely couldn't care less if my kids grew up to be gay or bisexual. And the thing that's really hard is that like I do wind up my nanny when I say that my sister was a lesbian, because nanny being so old school Jamaican, it's ridiculous. But at the same time, she's
for it,
and the thing is, 80 plus with dementia. We cannot teach her. We cannot change her views, unfortunately.
And that's that's a different thing, and this is through generations. You know what I mean?
But it's that thing where what's good is that nowadays there's a lot more, and I think also with us guys working with young people in our histories and that kind of stuff, you have to open your world in your mind, because you can't be a professional work with young people and say I'm not working with that one because he's gay. You can't do that, and you have to be more accepting. You have to protect them, and I think that's what's allowed me to be better with actually. Jada or Jess come home and said, "Oh, this is my girlfriend." Be like, you know the rule. It's like the rule is somebody cannot be your boyfriend or girlfriend until they've sat at the table with you and had dinner. So it doesn't matter who it is. That's just getting them. So kind of that's where we are with identity.
Yeah, and they address you as sir.
So we've got a clip. So we spoke to our boys over at the Ross Barnett show. Every Wednesday, catch them on Facebook. But they've got a quick clip that they're going to share with us, kind of around their view on identity. So check it out.
I've been asked by my boys Jay and Kinny to basically share my views on identity as a parent. So for me, I've got 3 children. My oldest is a girl, and then I've got 2 younger sons. And cultural identity in particular has always been really important for me. I think what's quite interesting is, like, for my children, they're growing up in a household where both parents are culturally coming from a very similar place. So, both of my children's parents grew up eating the same food, hearing the same kind of music in the family household. So reggae, our background traditionally is Jamaican. And actually, like, for my children, I think that means that maybe, I don't know, they're in an environment where both parents are just coming from a very similar place. So their grandparents are obviously, like, very similar because they're Jamaican people. But I do think, like, identity is very, very important. And I think in this modern day and age, it is really important to kind of just have conversations with your children. And what I try to do is I just kind of check their understanding. So I ask them questions. I talk to them about, things that we do, like traditionally and culturally. And then every now and then I'll just talk to them and just ask them questions about things, Like, I find it interesting that my 9-year-old son, he understands patois, like, obviously, like, all of my children do, but I find it really interesting that he's in an environment where he goes to school with people who are predominantly from different cultures, but actually he can be in a room and my wife can say something to him and he just knows exactly what I want. And that's, like, I know that's real basic, but that still is something that kind of I look at and I think, oh, that's quite fascinating, because culturally he just gets it. And then also even down to things like food, innit? Like, we're kind of very traditional, I guess, from the perspective of most Sundays we're eating rice and peas in this household. I would say probably at least half of the week we eat Jamaican food. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but just on average, at least half of the week. My wife would probably like to prepare less if she could, because obviously, like, it's probably a little bit more labor intensive than maybe, I don't know, making like jacket potatoes or whatever. But, we're all good, we're flexible, we eat whatever. But yeah, I do think that bestowing that kind of identity on your children is important. And I feel that it's important that they develop their own identity. So, like, my older son, he's got a very mixed friendship group. But actually I've seen changes in them. So, like, when he was younger, obviously, he's like a sponge, innit? Children, they're soaking up everything in their environment. But now, like, he seems to really have that sense of identity of culturally where he's from. Like, he's busting joke, innit? Like, he's doing things like answering his phone and, like, speaking in patois when he's speaking to me and his mum. Like, that's, do you know what I'm trying to say? Even when he sees his nan, like, who one of his grandparents actually lives in Jamaica, and, like, she spends a lot of time with us, and, like, like, even the way he greets her and all that. So it's interesting to kind of see all of those dynamics at play. But yeah, overall, I'd say I think that identity is really important. I think culturally is where it starts, but obviously there's so much more that goes into it. And I think for me, it's just important to just talk to your children and, just kind of like for me, just test where they're coming from. And if need be, just kind of weigh in and just try and share them jewels.
Okay, thank you for that, boys. Those guys, Ross Barnett Show, Every Wednesday you can catch them live on Facebook. You can go back and watch all the stuff. It's all on Facebook. They're not on YouTube. So yeah, on Facebook, look for the Ross Barnett Show. Their link will be down below. Those guys put in so much on for Bristol. So if you know somebody or you have something that you might not feel that you can come on here, but if you have a product, something you want to get out there or you want a bit of support, speak to those boys because their feed, they share anyone and everyone. And if you want to go on and talk about stuff, they're even starting to tackle around mental well-being. So they recently had a guy on to talk about mental health, and that's massive within the Caribbean community, but actually within the male community and just all over. It's just good to kind of watch things. So yeah, Ross Barnett Show, check him out.
All right, so we're going to talk about what's happening next month on our show. So we are collaborating with a global community interest company called Flamingo Chicks, who are based in Bristol, but they do a lot of work in the country and around the world through inclusive dance. So working with children who have an impairment, and what they do is they use their inclusive dance to encourage young children to do whatever it is that they want to do around performing arts, and we are going to be involved with them next month, and it's to do with their Dad's Charter, which is coming up. It's going to be announced next year. So it's going to be called Dad Dance, and what they will be doing is the dads will be donning a tutu and dancing with their children, which these dads will be too. We're also going to be interviewing a lot of the fathers around what it's like to, what it's like to have children with an impairment, what it was like for them, especially around identity, anxiety, all those things we've been recently talking about. So watch this space. It's going to be a really, really good episode, and we're really excited about being involved, with Flamingo Chicks. And I'm just looking forward to seeing Joe donning a pink tutu.
Do you know what's unfair about this though? Is that this guy used to run a dance class.
I know, right? Do I look like I run a dance class?
But don't worry, we're going to bust a move, shake a leg, and yeah, we'll put Kinny to shame. So that's kind of what's going on. You would have seen popping up throughout the show. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure you're hitting the like. If you have an opinion, let us know. I think there's no opinion that's incorrect. We've had a lot of people enjoying our Monday night riddles on Instagram. So catch us on Instagram, kind of doing that stuff. And as always, email us if you know anybody that might want to come on the show to share some of their experiences. This is it's an open door policy. Just let us know. Although the Dadcast bunkers changed a bit, we're more than happy to share that address as long as you keep it under wraps. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you to our guests. What did I say the names were? Colin and Ron for being so well behaved. I couldn't tell you which is which, but yeah, they won't be here after this show. And yeah, we're still looking at starting our Dad's Diary. So yes, that will be coming very soon.
Definitely. You know what? I will promise. I will do the first one, and it will be out very, very soon. Okay.
Exactly.
Very soon. No. I guarantee you, when this show comes out, the following day, there will be the first Dadcast Diary, okay? When this comes out, the following day, there will be a Dadcast Diary from moi.
And a little bit of a plug. So, although I was going to wear it, but I wasn't sure if somebody else was going to wear it. So, the red tees have been posted out. A lot of people are getting them. So, thank you to those people that have purchased. Some have now been asking when the next one's coming out. It might not be until Christmas, possibly. We don't want to be throwing out all sorts. So look out for that. We will let you know when they're out. Thank you to everybody who supported. And so I get confused. I think there's nothing else to say, but Fatherhood
doesn't come with a manual.
We each come up with a duppy bit. But
yeah.
Okay, thank you.